When diving into the draft process, MLB organizations go beyond just throwing together a 1 through 500 list of prospects. This is where the true strategy comes in, where the understanding of tiering becomes a game changer. In the war room, decision-making is about flexibility and adaptability, not about just taking the next guy off a massive list. Welcome to the War Room. I am Shooter Hunt, joined by David Seifert of Prep Baseball, D1 Baseball. We are, of course, talking about the Draft Board 2.0 today, Seif, leading us in because you and I go back and forth, and we've had so much of this over the last year about how a draft board should be built, right? From an organization standpoint to us who does have some media aspect to things, putting it public facing, which and I put in the rollout intro was like, it's neater, right? 1 through 500 just makes things neat, right? This guy's here, this guy's there. Oh, this works. I'm number 497. Oh, I'm number 383. That's just not how it works. And the tiering aspect, and it's everybody by this point knows signability is a huge aspect, especially from the prep point of view. But in the end, we did put together a 1 through 200 list, college, high school. But I think, for me at least, the separated lists, especially the positionally separated lists, are the most important.
Yeah, we spoke about it before. When you're actually in the draft room, I mean, as you just said, we're scouts for media. We want people to kind of like put themselves in the draft room on draft day, right? It's not always about taking the best player. You could have a high school prep pitcher that projects to be maybe a 2 or a 3 in rotation, right? If everything falls into place, but he may be attractive, but he may be less attractive to you than the college hitter who's probably a 3rd round talent, but you know he's going to hit. He's not a superstar. It just depends on how much bonus pool money you have, what you took before him, what you're planning to after him. I mean, I always approach it with kind of like a balanced portfolio, so to speak, right? Like, some teams you can get a little more risky, like the Dodgers, because a mistake here or there doesn't really matter. But if you're making mistakes when you're the Rays and maybe some other smaller market teams, it does matter more. So, I think we just try to lay it all out there in different ways and present it in different ways. And whatever clicks with the listener and the reader, the better.
Yeah, and even more so like that. I think we're not even that's bare bones, but like the separation we've done is great. But then going beyond, hey, what does our player development do well? What do we produce good hitters? Do we produce good pitchers? That's something a scouting director has to take into account, right? What do we do well? Because if I send 20 guys off that we just drafted and they stink, that's not going to look good on the entire department, right? We need to have some guys who can do some things. And once we take them, sign them, hand them off, we don't know what goes on. Or we know what goes on, but we don't have the impact that those guys on the ground do. What did they do well? What have we produced? Oh, this organization does a great job with pitchers. Hey, we should get some arms. This guy can make a jump. Perfect. We can grab him for this value. So those are all things that go into consideration for a general organization's draft board, which is why to say our list for 1 through 200, some of those guys are not going to get drafted, right? Those high school kids, if you're looking, this is not where they're going to get drafted, right? Number 1, 2, 3. There's so many other aspects that go into it. So keep that in mind. This is the big board. This is a talent evaluation of our boots on the ground. Seif and I getting out there, seeing the players in person, scouting, evaluation, also adding the fact that we do have analytics checking in on, hey, what are these guys at? Where can they get to? What is that future upside? It's a huge reason why for our list, Seif, there are more high school guys on ours. It's almost a certainty more college guys will be drafted, right? But for our list, there's more high school players. And in the draft run for these players, the high school kids, so 2025, but then again in 2028, there'll be about 30 first rounders. And I think the last time I checked, it's about 70 top 60 picks. So across those 2 years, about 70 guys from this class of 2025 high school kids will go in the top 60 picks. So essentially the top 2 rounds. That's an incredible number to think about, right? So even on our list, right, the top 100 high school guys, like you're essentially looking at like these are top 2 rounders. Because you're going to miss
it. It might not be this year, but it will be in 2 years if they're sophomore eligible or 3 years if they're normal. Yeah.
Exactly. And then it's a bigger. So like I always talk to when parents are like, oh, my guy's ranked here. Like, hey, you're top 500 in the country. That's saying a lot. Matt Shaw was at like 450 in the class. When he went to college, we really liked him. He's a right kind of a corner guy, essentially coming out of New England. Hey, what's he going to be? We really like the talent, the athlete, but there's some risk involved with where he's coming from. Goes to Maryland, does a great thing, but there's a ton of talent there. But let's dive right into the board. Number one on the list has not changed. Ethan Holiday is, to me, and Seif, you've seen the videos, you've seen him up in person at the All-American Games the last 2 years. You've seen what his brother's done. You almost, I feel bad saying this, but you almost forget about Matt at this point. He was a borderline Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer in my book. But Jackson's done so well. The Holiday name has become so big. I feel like the whole family's doing their thing. Matt's out there playing pickleball. He's a stud at that. How do you not take that guy at one? Like, how do you walk in and talk to your owner and say, hey, I know that everything's pointing towards this, even if there are some hiccups? Is it a difficult process to say no to that guy?
I mean, I never bet against genetics. I learned long ago, don't bet against the son of a big leaguer from getting to the big leagues. Doesn't mean he's going to be as good as his father, but it also means he might be better than his father too, right? I just saw, was it Prince Fielder's son, right? Cecil Fielder's grandson. I just saw he's like 14 years old. I just saw some takes of him, and oh my. So I know we're talking Holiday and not Fielder, but it's the same thing. And I don't know how you tell your owner that you're not going to take or Matt Holiday's son, whose older brother is almost in the big leagues and has had so much success. That'd be a tough conversation.
It's definitely difficult, but like, it's a really talented class. The college, Ivar Arquette jumps up to number one, and it's no mistake. And I was talking to a coach who actually was playing against him a couple of weeks ago, and we were having a great conversation. He was saying, I went into the series against Oregon State. I'm like, this kid's not a shortstop. There's no way. He's 6'4", 220. And he said, after those 2 games, oh, he's darn sure a shortstop. That guy is unreal on the field. So what have you had on Ivar Arquette? Because it's a huge year for the state of Hawaii, and him being at Oregon State, which is another big draft class for the Beavs.
Sounds like you're talking to me, because I had the same mindset. I'd seen him in the Cape over the summer, and he mostly played third. He played a little shortstop, but again, he's 6'4", 6'5", 220. But then I saw him at Globe Life. I think it was week 3 when Oregon State was there at Globe Life in Arlington, Texas. And I mean, he has it all. It's smooth. It's quick. It's like a veteran big leaguer out there just fielding and throwing ground balls. The only thing I didn't see on this look, which I've seen him pass look, he has an above average plus arm, so he's got plenty of arm, but he was just gloving it and flipping it. Like, he's got extremely quick hands, quick catch release. So he has everything defensively. And I mean, he is going to be a big shortstop, but unless he becomes really big, I think he stays at shortstop. And if he does outgrow the position, he goes to third base, and he's got more than enough power to profile there as well. So it's kind of like, I hate to say you can't miss, but you can't miss with where he's going to end up defensively, because it's going to be somewhere where his tools play.
For sure. And from there, like, awesome start to the year for Ivar Arquette. We had a big summer, great things coming from that. And moving over to Jamie Arnold, who has really impressed me. Like, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, that I did not understand how much business he was bringing to the mound. And do you think there is an avenue for him to go 1-1? Does he still have a steady climb? I keep going with like this. He's not Skeens, but like Skeens had that steady climb to where, hey, by the end, we're like, how do you not take this guy if you're the Pirates? And you really couldn't go wrong. Dylan Cruz is off to a really good start with the Nationals, but like, Paul Skeens is Paul Skeens. Could this guy jump into a rotation like next year?
I'd say never. He's left-handed. He throws mid-90s. He has good changeup, solid breaking ball. His fastball is not only mid-90s, but also moves. It jumps. It's kind of like the Josh Hader effect. It's kind of going uphill a little bit. So he definitely has the capability of doing it. I just don't think he's in the same Skeens class to do it. But could he jump in 1-1? Certainly. Something happens. Guys outprice themselves. You know how the agents work. You're more in tune with the agents and how they operate nowadays than I do. But he's a very talented guy. He could go 1-1. A lot of people didn't know who was going to go 1-1 last year, right? Was it early? It was Weatherholt, but then he got injured. So was it going to be Bazana? Was it going to be somebody else? And obviously Bazana went. But to answer your question simply, Jamie Carl, he could be 1-1. He's that good.
It's in the mix. He's a left-hander. It's really interesting. One of the fascinating things I was looking at, there's 16 essentially supplemental picks. Like there are a lot of picks out there. A lot of teams have multiple picks. There's going to be some dicing and slicing. The big thing I've learned in the last few years is just like sometimes those guys are their first round picks, right? That supplemental second round, that may be the actual quote unquote, hey, that's the guy we're going after. Maybe this was a safer avenue early on in the first round at a haircut. But those are the top three from there. One of the shifts in the draft board with the combination comes at 4, right? So from 4 through 11, we moved a group of high school guys. Now, the actual order of those high school guys listed has not really changed for the most part. Seth Hernandez is number 3 in the high school class, big arm, up at 100. It's as easy as it comes. Again, the things that we're continuing to monitor is like, is this guy Jackson Jobe electric to the tune of this is going to be a top 5 pick? That's kind of something to follow with Seth Hernandez. It's super easy. He's uber athletic. It's just like, just go see it. I can't wait to see it. I'm going to see it next week. But Seth Hernandez, Cam Appenzeller is a lefty from Illinois, maintains our top southpaw. He was on the hoops court. Seif, I don't know if you saw, he was second team All-State. I was watching dunks all over the place. So I'd assume that his ramp up will be a little bit slower. Whereas, and a big reason for our 2.0 here, this is like the warm weather college update. Whereas our next one will include, now we got the cold weather kids, right? The Midwest, the Northeast, the Pacific Northwest. This is now we get to see those guys a little bit more. Cam Appenzeller will be kind of a later spring blossoming guy if I'm right here. Brady Ebel, Kason Cunningham, Xavier Nyans, Billy Carlson, Josh Hammond, who has had a great start to the spring. He's almost slam dunk in that first round right now for me. Eli Willits, who I think youngest kid in the class, I think he has a chance to go above all of them. These shortstops could all go in different ranges. Eli Willits, the athleticism, switch hitter, plays at such a high level. I've kind of said it for a couple years now. It's like, if you took Anthony Volpe and what he did on the field throughout high school, where everybody loved him, and then said, he also switch hits, he can also play center field. It's like the next generation of Anthony Volpe here. So it's a lot of stuff to like, a lot of shortstops up the middle. I feel pretty confident that those guys have a good chance to be first rounders. But it's another grouping again where, hey, we've seen some of these guys go to college, right? Hey, if you're going to be a 15 to 25 pick, come to school, come to the SEC, you can be a top 3 pick. Look at Dylan Cruz, look at Paul Skeens. Hey, they came to school, had a great time at Baton Rouge, and they made an extra $6 million. So that's something also to consider in the end. But we're going to the college guys from here. Tyler Bremner, where he was a little bit higher to start the year. He's come down a bit, just not quite as sharp, right? That's what it comes down to, which I'm sure there's teams out there like assumed he was a top 3 pick. Now all of a sudden at 10 to 12, they're like, if we get this Bremner kid here, oh my gosh, insane value. But what do you think about Tyler Bremner there?
Yeah, I think you hit it. He just hasn't been as sharp. And I think we were spoiled this summer. He was super crisp. He was 96, 98. I call it a sweeper. I think the industry is just saying it's a regular slider, but he also throws a curveball and a changeup. So he's a multiple pitch guy, strike thrower. But like I said, this summer we were spoiled with the 96, 98, and it was electric. This spring he's been more like 94, 95. His numbers they're solid, but they're not they're solid for what he's shown. He's just not showing the same stuff he did this summer. Now the stuff has been, he's 12th on our board, so it's deserving of there, but it may not be, the top 3 or top 4 is kind of what preseason projections kind of had him going. Mm-hmm. So overall he hasn't been the guy we saw this summer, but hey, the weather warms up a little bit. I know it's always warm in California. I don't think UC Santa Barbara actually ever leaves the state of California outside. I think they just got back from Hawaii. So it's probably been warm for him for a while now, but I think the best is yet to come out of Bremner.
It's like you got to get out to Santa Barbara. It can get a little chilly there at night. You get the marine
in the low 50s.
A light sweater, maybe a quarter zip. But this grouping, so we start with Bremner at 12, and honestly, the way he started the year is very similar to Chase Dollander, where like all of a sudden you start nitpicking. The guys that picks 15 through 18 start saying, I don't know about him because they're trying to get him down to them. So, but It's a group of college guys. Tyler Bremner at 12, Luke Stevenson, catcher from North Carolina at 13, Jace Lavalette at Texas A&M, center fielder. We'll talk about him in a second. Left-handed pitcher Liam Doyle from Tennessee, who's striking everybody out. And another guy striking everybody out, Kyson Witherspoon from Oklahoma. This is a grouping. Good grouping of guys here. Tell us about Stevenson, Lavalette, and then we can get into the pitchers right after that. So those two, Stevenson and Lavalette, what do we got going on with these two?
Stevenson's just a very well-balanced prospect. I mean, he's an above-average defender. He has a plus arm. He's going to stay behind the dish. He's going to be a very good big league catcher. He's going to hit for some average. He's not going to be a 300 hitter. He might be, 260, 280, someone there, and he's going to hit you 15 or 20 home runs, maybe even a few more, because he actually does have plus raw power. Yeah. He just hasn't gotten to it maybe as much as he will. But very solid overall guy. He's going to be an everyday big league catcher. So those have a ton of value, as we both know. And then right behind him, Lavalette. He was at the top of our board, at the top of the college board in the preseason. He just really hasn't put it all together. I mean, Texas A&M, they've had injuries. They've had a coaching change. They just really haven't had the best luck. He's kind of, I hate to say stuck in neutral. He had a nice home run last night. He had another double, so he's starting to heat up. I think the weekend before, I think he had like 5 batted balls over 106 miles per hour, but only like 1 was a base hit. So I hate to go all off his batting average, which is like 280, I believe, right now. But he has not been doing what maybe was predicted. Kind of like Brenmer. He's still a prospect. He's still a top prospect. He's still a plus runner. He can play the big field at 6'4", 240 pounds. He throws average. He does a lot of things well. So he'll be there in the end. I do look for him to rebound the second half for sure.
What's interesting, and I got a chance, like, kid really cares. And I don't know, that was something that I was taken away. When we're talking right now, they just played on Thursday night, lost to Alabama. He cares a lot. And they're struggling right now. He got injuries in the lineup. Things are not going well. That press can come on, right? Carrying a lot on your shoulders. Everybody talking about NIL, A&M's doing this. There's so many outside factors to step on the field and try to win, right? Then Texas A&M, it has great culture. The amount of people who care about the brand of Texas A&M, alumni who've been there, is incredible. So you have that weight in your shoulders. I'm thinking back to last year with Cags, right? Everybody found as many things wrong with him as possible, right? He swings outside the zone, does this. Hey, when it comes down to it, he hits the ball further than anybody else.
Yeah, he throws 100. He hits it 120. He throws it 100. I mean, give the guy a break. What are you looking for here, right?
So that's where I come to with, hey, are we losing sight of this guy 6'4" and plays center field, runs around really well, and can hit the ball far? Yeah. Are there still teams who are like quietly like, oh yeah, no, the mainstream, the media is gonna keep portraying like, oh, A&M's struggling, Lovett's only hitting 280, okay, all these things, and then all of a sudden, picks 9 through 12 get excited again. So that's kind of something with Jace Lavalette. I walked away from last night just seeing him early in the game, like this guy's trying to get his team going. He's being a leader out there, so that was a positive for me with regards to him. But shift over to the pitchers, because pitching is so valuable, right? Hands down, like, got to get arms. If this guy's a frontline guy. Look what Paul Skeens. This guy goes right from LSU to start the All-Star game. Like, it's unbelievable. Liam Doyle jumps up. He's been a journeyman, goes from New Hampshire to Coastal Carolina to Ole Miss. Now he's at Tennessee. Frank Anderson doing incredible stuff there, as always, to this guy who's now throwing. Was he up to 99? Am I mistaken there? What's Liam Doyle been up to?
Yep, Doyle's been up to 99. Yeah, well, he's one of 4 Tennessee arms that have been 99 or better. Just craziness in Knoxville.
They're juicing the gun, I swear. No, but Doyle, Witherspoon, and I got a chance to watch Kyson Witherspoon against South Carolina. I mean, another guy, I was unaware of what that stuff was doing. That fastball is crazy. And then he tunnels it, the breaking ball, everything is really good. Separate those two. What are you looking at from those two? You're on the board, pick 7, whatever pick it is. Witherspoon's here, Doyle's there. How do we separate those two guys? What are the factors that you're taking into account in the war room?
Well, I mean, if I'm in the playoff race, like, so if I'm picking, let's just say I'm picking I'm the Cardinals. I'm picking 5th, right? And I think I'm one arm in my bullpen short of making a long run into the playoffs and through the playoffs, right? Then I'm probably going to lean Doyle because he's the best. He is essentially big league ready. If you had to pick one guy from the entire draft who could step in onto a big league field and excel, maybe not excel, but more than hold your own, it's Liam Doyle. Whereas if I'm going long-term, like, okay, well, I am let's see here, I'm around the same, I'm the Marlins, I'm the Pirates, I'm building for the future. If I'm the Pirates, I'm going to take Witherspoon because I know I got potentially another mid-rotation, a 2, a 3 to go right behind Skeens for a number of years. So they're both super talented. They both have now stuff. But again, it just depends the situation your team is in at that time of year. And I know it's only going to be mid-July, but you're going to know where you're at mid-July, right? Right before the All-Star, or after the All-Star break, you kind of know where you're at. You're either playing for next year or you're loading up for the current year.
Interesting. So those are the top 16. Then there's another grouping of high school guys. Braden Jackson, who the more and more I watch, very similar to Charlie Condon. You look at it, you have him go off to school, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah, he is Charlie Condon. Oh, wow, he went to Oregon, just started hitting home runs all over the place, which he's been doing this spring. Not a great high school team. I think I'm going to get to see him in a few weeks. We'll have to check it out. Awesome kid, can play all over the diamond, kind of similar to Condon. Outfield, I think he can go to third base, first base. He's obviously a really good catcher behind the plate. He's up here for a reason. But these are type of guys where he might have a chance to get to school. And then what are we looking at? Hey, this is the number one guy to make it to campus. Same with Jaden Fauske. Really good bat. The bat's going to carry the war. He's caught in the past. Going to do some center field throughout the spring. But in the end, it's a left-handed bat. Can move the barrel around. The power has come out and continue to show. Confident kid. Love the way he works. I think some guys in the Midwest are going to be really excited about that bat. They do such a great job out there. It's a track record of success and zone awareness, pitch recognition, swing decisions, really helpful from a cold weather state kid, are outstanding for him. Tons of walks on the circus. And then Cruz Schoolcraft, guy out by me, lefty. I would not be surprised if he's up to 100. It's kind of for last year said it's similar to this kid Travis Sikora, who's out of Texas, the Austin area, triple-digit right-hander, big physical kid, two-way, really good athlete. He's gone off with the Nationals. I think he was a supplemental pick, about 34. And done really well for them to start. I think there's a chance where you could see Cruz Schoolcraft continue to rise. Really good prospect. Obviously, lefty, 6'8". Especially if the slider makes a jump, I think we may ultimately be way too low on him. It's really going to be dependent on what that slider does and what that secondary stuff shows. But he's got the upside to continue to rise. That's a grouping of 3 there. Ironically, the 2 southpaws in this class, both Tennessee commits. So then we bring in the whole, they're just getting to campus now a little bit more often, right? You go into the Skeens, hey, come to campus, be the first overall pick. You're the first guy to make $10 million in 3 years, right? I'm sure by then the slot for the first overall pick will be $10 million. You could put that on your pedigree. You come to Knoxville and you make an extra $6 million. But from there, another set speaking of Tennessee, AJ Russell at 20, right-handed pitcher. Gavin Keelan, who Seifert has been one of the bigger risers in this class, guy who we've loved since high school, and he's with that Wisconsin hitters crew coming out of the state of Wisconsin. And Merrick Houston, shortstop from Wake Forest. Talk about AJ Russell, especially at the top, because I know he's been coming back from injury, but the upside seems to outweigh anything.
Yeah, AJ Russell has metrically the best fastball. Movement, velocity, you name it, the best metrics of any fastball in college baseball this year. 6'5" righty, kind of a lower slot, also has a breaking ball. But he's been in and out since he's been at Tennessee. He's been in and out with injury. So right now he came back, I think about two weeks ago, he came back through a little bit. And what I heard, don't know if it's 100% true or not, because you always hear all this stuff like you had mentioned before. Some people just throw it out there. But what I heard, he was coming back too quickly. His velocity was too good. The doctor said his velocity was too strong right now. So they didn't shut him down, but they kind of brought him back a little bit. He hasn't pitched in a game for last 10, 12 days. And they expect him to be maybe another 2-3 weeks before he's back ramped up, ready to go. and kind of passes the doctor's test a little bit better. But very interesting guy, and he's a starter type guy, just massive stuff, nasty stuff.
Talk about a literal ace in the hole for Tony down there in Knoxville, waiting to bust him out for the play. It's like he's like the DeGrom. He's on the DeGrom plan. Yeah,
they already have Doyle is the lightest at 99.5 fastball max so far, but they've got Snead at 101. They have Tanner Franklin at 100, and then Marcus Phillips bumped. I think he hit like 400s for me last weekend when I was in Tennessee. So it's absolutely ridiculous with the arms they have. They have freshmen throwing 97. I mean, it's funny how we've talked about 21 guys so far, and 7 of them have Tennessee ties, whether they're there now or they're a Tennessee recruit. So it's crazy what's going on right in Knoxville. It's fun to watch. I use crazy, but it's just a blast to watch.
Well,
so much talent.
We'll stick on the topic, and why don't you hop over to Marcus Phillips, who bumps up to number 34 on the list. I know you just saw him. What's the profile there? He's a guy that we mocked in the first round. What do you have on Marcus Phillips?
We first heard about Rob Ellis in Iowa. He first told us about Marcus Phillips when he was a true freshman at Iowa Western the fall of his freshman year. Said, hey, this is a guy. At that point, he was a two-way guy. He only went to Iowa Western 1 year, played in and out of lineup, again, hurt. I think it was I don't even want to say what it was, but he didn't play a ton. He went to Tennessee as a sophomore. They put him in the pen, built him up, developed him a little bit. Had an up and down year, but at the end of the day, his stats were fine. He just wasn't in any huge role, not a starter, not a closer. But they've just been bringing him along. And now he's an absolutely elite. I mean, we have him in the first round here, just outside the first round. I think preseason he's more like a third rounder, but he's kind of like Liam Doyle, right? Liam Doyle was like a third rounder. Boom, there he is. Gavin Killen, who we kind of skipped over, but I'm sure we'll come back to him. He was more like a second rounder. We knew he's going to be bigger, stronger, faster going to Knoxville. Boom. Now he is a first rounder. But back to Phillips, he'll run up to 100. He holds his velocity better than any college pitcher that I've seen this year. I know he holds his better than any guy at Tennessee, and they have mega dudes, but he'll sit 96, 98 for 5 innings. He'll sit there for 80, 90 pitches at this point in the year, and I only can imagine what that's going to project to. So he is a bona fide, durable. He's 6'4", 235, 240 pounds. Arms got a little length, but not like where it affects his control. He's a strike thrower. In addition to his upper 90s fastball, he's got a really high spin slider. It's not a swing and miss yet as much as you think it would be based on its metrics. It's like almost a 3,000 RPM spinner, but he does throw it for strikes. And I mean, he's just an out-getter. So we have him at 34, which is early second, or I'm sort of late in the comp round. He for me, he could rise around 2025 overall when all the dust is settled and some of these high school guys don't sign or negotiate something a bigger bonus in the second round like we always see. But Phillips could be a riser in terms of just hey, this guy's probably a back half first rounder at the end of the day.
Is the slider what separates him from Witherspoon right now from making a jump to that level?
Yeah, Witherspoon will go out there with a plus slider. He will throw 96, 98 with a plus slider. They both have good control. Phillips, again, same velocity. Witherspoon's present slider that you'll see, like if you average it over the 30 slider he throws in the game, Witherspoon's going to come out to a 60. Phillips will come out to a 50, on average.
Very, very nice. We're shifting over because Merrick Houston at 22. At 23 is one of the bigger risers for us. And it's kind of been a steady rise. He's a third baseman out of Alabama, high school kid, Mountain Brook High School, Caleb Barnett, who you got a chance to see at the Super 60. It's about 6'5", 6'6", also going to hop in the mound. The Super 60 actually was a great revelation for several kids that were huge guys. And if you check out the high school article, it's kind of a draft stock report from the prep side. Personal portfolio picks for me, Caleb Barnett was number 1. Nicky Becker was a Jersey kid, whereas last year kind of dragged my feet on Luke Dickerson, who we love so much throughout his whole high school career. And then in the end, it was like, get him up there. Nicky Becker's on that level. can really play shortstop, had a great summer, put on a show in front of some important people at the right times. He's on a really good Don Bosco team this spring. His brother's at University of Virginia right now, needs to cut down the strikeouts. I was checking out, though, for next year, if he's going to be in that 1-1 mix, like I'm trying to push. He's probably not there yet, Seif, but get ready for that. Eric Becker, Aiden West, who's a shortstop from Maryland, another guy at the Super 60 who I was blown away by. 6'2", 205, runs a 6'5", 60. Looked the part at shortstop as a left-handed stroke. It is tight. It is impactful. I think he has a chance to get into the back half of that first round, potentially, if not one of those 16 supplemental picks, which there's a lot of teams who are kind of dancing around the prep circles right now, trying to see who they can get there. Nick Partridge, who's an infielder from Mulberry High School in Florida, really sweet stroke from the left side. I think his best days are probably ahead of him. He's going to continue to fill out, but is showing off some power. And then John Stutzer, another Super 60 kid from the state of Georgia, football player, was a standout on the gridiron, can play shortstop, play the outfield. I think ultimately he's going to be running around in outfield with some plus speed. But the bat the ball, it's a compact guy. I'm going to have to change it now, Seif. Those compact guys are kind of going to be in the Matt Shaw mix, right? Those Matt Shaw, right. Hey, what's this guy going to be? Well, we think this guy Stutzer's got a chance to be a real guy. So those are kind of the 5 for me that were the portfolio picks. Got to follow these guys, got to stay on them. But Caleb Barnett at the top, you got a chance to see 6'5". To me, it's just some unteachable stuff. The lag in the zone, the bat speed. There's just not a lot of guys that look like him on the diamond. He steps to the field. It's going to continue to fill out. I was blown away by just – it's still a young frame. Like there's so much to come, but he's already got the powerful profile from the right side. The bat the ball's there. He took some of the best BP at USA throughout the summer. My note was, this is different. It sounds different. He's next to a bunch of guys who are going to be top 2 rounders, and his BP sounds different. It looks different. So that's something that's really interesting to me. Going to stick at shortstop or at third base. So those are kind of the 5 high school guys that are really rising for us. We're pushing in here. We're going to see what they do throughout the spring. Moving forward a little bit into another college group here. Ike Irish, Ethan Conrad, Brendan Summerhill, Ethan Petrie. Seif, these are bat war guys who I'm excited about, right? This is, you and I have all these discussions because I love Ethan Petrie. I've loved him since high school. So at this point, I'm just straight up biased. Like, I'm just in on the Ethan Petrie. I'm just going to die on that hill. He's really good. But Summerhill, obviously really good. Another former Super 60 guy from left side, can really run. Tools across the board. Ethan Conrad, who, New York kid, I had to go back and check out his metrics. Blast metrics, TrackMan metrics. New York State games, Dan Savit, Jared Carrier do such a great job up there. He lived right by Marist, ends up going there. COVID have kind of affected his recruitment a little bit, but he's 6'3", left-handed. Guys liked him as a pitcher, kind of, hey, this guy might pitch coming out of high school. He says, no, I'm a hitter. Goes to Marist, puts on a show early. He goes to Wake Forest now. What have we been seeing from Ethan Conrad?
He's just been getting to it. I mean, he got to his tools at Marist. He always has been a high average hitter. He's always done a lot right, but he's doing it at Wake Forest now. So obviously, when you hit just under 400 Marist, it's one thing. When you're doing it at Wake Forest, he has 7 home runs already this year. He walks more, he strikes out. He can play center field. He's 6'3", 220. He just has the tools. He has the body type. He has the athleticism. He's putting up the statistics, albeit it's at Wake Forest, but the guy's a 5-tool player.
And all these guys, Ike Irish. So Ike Irish is nestled above these guys. Is that because the bat, just the bat to ball, the hit power profile, just a little more confidence in the success of that at the next level?
Yeah, for me, I think we have Irish above the 2 better athletes in Conrad and Hunt. And so we basically have Irish and Petrie, and sandwiched between them are the 2 better athletes in Conrad and Summerhill, right? That's kind of how we set this up. But for me, Irish is at the top just because of the position he plays. If they all played outfield, then I think Irish would be the 4th of the 4, but they don't. Irish is the only one that can catch. Conrad can play some first base. Summerhill, he's a true center fielder. I'm not sure if Conrad stays in center, but he can go to either corner. He can also go to first base. Petrie, for me, he's a right fielder. He's not much of a defender. He's the slowest of the 4. He's probably getting up first base, but I know you love this guy, so I'm not trying to crush him. But he has the most – I mean, if we're looking at realistically or honestly, he has the most proven bat of all. He was the Cape Cod MVP, led the Cape in a bunch of different categories, right? So like Petrie's the most accomplished of the four. You could probably really take him in any order, but we just had him set. We had him set up by position. You know, we like Ike Ayers because he's the catcher, so we put him the highest.
It's amazing. Like if you evaluate them all on the same level, and I always like talk about that internally. Like how much better is he? $10,000 better? Is he 50? Is he 100? Is he $500,000? Like what level are we separating? Like, and don't answer that question now, but it's something that I'm always thinking of, and that's what agents are on the line with the scouting directors. Like, what is it going to take here? Will this guy take this? And all of a sudden, your value will decrease, or your value gets better, right? If Ike Ayers says he'll take $1 million less than Ethan Petrie, he becomes an incredible prospect. Like it's not even close at that point.
If you have them evaluated the same.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Take the better player. Take the better player. But if you have three guys evaluated the same and it's a wash, talent-wise, projection-wise, everything, just sign the guy. Give him the extra $100,000. Take the better player. It's $100,000. It's not in your money. It's some billionaire owner's money. Give him the money.
It's fake money, right? So,
well, I mean, I just think back to the many draft rooms I've been in. I'm not mentioning any names or anything, but there's this one player. We got in a room. Hey, do we want to give this guy $500,000 in the third round? Okay. I'm like, yeah. Well, we take him in the third round. We give him $1 million. I'm like, what? We gave him $1 million. That wasn't the question. You know what I mean? So there is a difference. I'm not always in favor of paying the player the money because it's twice as much in that case. But generally, yeah, just a couple $100,000 more. You have them all evaluated the same. Just pay the guy. Pay him. Sign him up.
Moving on to another college grouping we have here. Aloy at Arkansas, shortstop, who's been on a good rise throughout this spring. Always love when guys grab the spotlight and make the most of their moment. Dean Curley, who's come down a little bit here at Tennessee, draft eligible soft. Devin Taylor, outfielder, Indiana's kind of getting hotter as the weather warms up. Talk about those three, and then I'll throw another guy into the mix after you go into about those three comparatively.
Yeah, Aloy has risen simply because he is showing signs that he can probably stay at shortstop at the pro level. And we had him high to begin with, but he's in first round territory now. I believe we had him more in second round territory. He has risen up to that. He's past Curley in that regard because Curley, for me, after seeing him play enough, and especially last weekend in Knoxville, I don't think Curley's going to stay at shortstop. So now he's going to third base, which he has the tools to do. He's got more than a plus arm. His hands are fine. His range is fine for third base. The power will be there too. But those two flipped just because I think one's going to stay at short and the other one is not going to. And then the third guy, Devin Taylor, hate to say he has the least projection of the three. He's a left fielder, doesn't have enough arm for right field, doesn't run well enough for center field. But man, can he hit. He is probably the most proven. Him and Ethan Petrie are probably the two most proven college bats on the board. And Taylor, I keep going back to this. Taylor had more home runs as a freshman and sophomore combined than Kyle Schwarber did freshman, junior, sophomore, junior, or however you want to pair Schwarber's top 2 years. Oh, wow. Taylor has more home runs. So guy can hit.
Now behind them is Cam Canarello. This is probably one of the more polarizing figures in college baseball. To me, it's been a little a fair amount pull happy. Like another guy who's high energy, high octane, trying to do as much as he can to win. How does that affect his status? Like I know he's fallen down here. What is the aspect, or what is the reasoning for him coming down here?
We had him top 10, top 12 overall, and it was based on he played through all last year hurt. He had summer surgery, and the prediction was he'd come back, throwing at least average, more raw power. It just hasn't played out that way. The arm strength's still not back. It's still 40. The raw power is still 40. Like you mentioned, he has a big hole away. He's really just been selling out for pull power. When I saw him week 1 in Globe Life, it was just selling out to the pull side, just grip and rip and try to launch the pull side, hit a home run. Now he's come around a little bit on that approach since then. He's adjusted, but overall the arm strength hasn't come back. The power is still below average. and it's hard to take a guy in the top half of the first round that has 2 below average tools. Now, to counter that, like you said, it's high intensity, it's high baseball instincts, it's the guy you want on a winning team. It's like you love the energy. So there's a lot to love about him. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, tools, and he just doesn't have the tools, or at least is not showing them right now, that really would justify taking him in the top half of the first round.
I think a team's still going to be really excited about when they do get him, that they have
sure.
the opportunity for a guy like that to come into their organization. So
he is a great player. Don't get me wrong, but then when you start looking at him in a different, like, again, the toolsy way, then that's when you maybe, again, we had him in the top 10 or 12 in the country going in, and we just don't at this point. I hate to be like a yo-yo, but again, if you start showing me an average arm and you start hitting the ball 110, 112, 13 miles per hour, then it's just a different guy.
Moving forward from there, Johnny Slowinski is a left-hander that I got to see recently, Prep Baseball All-American, one of the silkier deliveries, more dynamic deliveries in the class. Super small town. I've talked about in the past, just like his upside has a chance for the stuff to actually make almost 2 grade jumps. Like, he has not had the coaching that some other guys have had, the pitch design sessions, the edgertronic sessions. I think he has a chance to really jump up within an organization, which is why, again, those supplemental picks, like, he is squarely in those picks. Those guys, and I think that more of those second picks, if not the guys in those last 6-ish in the first round who know that he won't get back to them, they could go in earlier and try to work something out. He has moved into that mix for sure. Texas A&M recruit, who knows what's going on with the NIL package. Like, that's something we have to take into consideration now, where I'm sure area guys and scouting directors, hey, just throw something else at us that we have to deal with, right? Just make it even more difficult. You already moved the draft back. But Seif, what I wanted to talk to you about is, in my travels so far this spring, right? You go through the off season, these guys are making their advancements. What I've found is there's more depth in the prep left-handed class than initially I thought there would be. There are some really good arms out there that I think will have a chance to go fairly good. Talking about Briggs McKenzie, a kid from North Carolina, a left-hander, prep baseball All-American, who's had some good stuff, gone out there, done his thing. Another guy who, like, the pitchability, I love. Honestly, his short memory is something that's my favorite thing, right? Like, I'll give a run there. Like, I'm not giving up another one. Going out there and doing his thing. Uli Fernslers, I'm already trying to book trips up to Michigan to see this kid. 6'4", square-shouldered, low slot, had a big summer, dominated East Coast Pro. He was the darling of East Coast Pro, honestly. But seen some winter workouts, looks really good, ready for a big year. Xavier Mitchell down at Prestonwood Christian, the Dallas area. Always been silky smooth. The velo's jumped, right? It's something that scouts mitigate that risk. Oh, did he make the jump? This kid has kind of made that jump. 92 to 94. As the breaking ball gets more bite, he has a chance to really kind of climb into that day one consideration. Alex Barr, Indiana up by you, Seif. I swear, Seif, I say it all the time, but Indiana jump shots and fastballs. That's what it does. It's just silky jumpers and just power arms. This is a lefty. He's up to 96. It's 4 pitches that grade out probably as above average. If you can consistently do those and show off a starter profile, another guy, we may be too low on him. If he can start, he becomes, a Skubal type guy, right? Like, the Skubal is a 7th rounder. All of a sudden, it's crazy stuff, and he's Cy Young. Aiden Stillman down in Florida, he's another guy with huge metrics, up to 95. Virginia commitment, it's going to be tough to pull him away from that. And then Jack Bauer, kid in Chicago, up to 100 in his first outing of the year. He had an up and down summer. Strikes came and went. Guys are going to be scrambling back in there because, and it's something for us. He was a prep baseball All-American 2 years ago. Really good kid, square shoulder, everything to dream on. Left-hander up to 100. He's got a breaking ball, 3,000 plus RPM, really good changeup. And it's one of those who Drew Kalakashi, our scouting director, we've been in close contact for over a year. Hey, you got to follow this because his ceiling is so much higher that it doesn't matter how much better these right-handers perform. He's a lefty that throws 100 with potentially 3+ pitches. He's already in an upper echelon that you cannot ignore. That's something that, hey, there's a floor for that. The third round is is already way too low for a guy like that coming out of high school. So Talon Haley, a guy you got to see at the Super 60 from Mississippi, cancer survivors, had 2 surgeries he's coming back from. It's electric. He's missing bats. And then Ethan Rogers, kind of a quiet run, was a sleeper coming out of the Super 60 from the state of Missouri. He's been up to 94. He spins it really well. There's more than just those guys, as I said, but it's a really good prep southpaw class. How does that compare to the college guys? I know we've talked about some of the lefties. There's some really good left-handed arms. There's a ton of value in lefties. Do you think that teams are going to have to map out, and this is essentially where it comes down to, like, make sure you have those charts of college left-handers, college left-handed starters, left-handed relievers, high school prep lefties, starters, relievers. It's so important to have that, don't you think?
Yeah, when I first started scouting back in 2008, the cross-checker who trained me said, if you should have lefties that you want everywhere on your list. You know, he meant top round, mid rounds, late rounds. And I had a lot of good luck, good fortune getting lefties mid rounds and later rounds. And they didn't all make the big leagues, but they made it pretty far. They made it AA, AAA. So when you're signing college seniors, left-handers for $1,000 and they're making a AA and AAA, you get a pretty good reputation doing that. And I just don't think you can ever go wrong with lefties. I'm left-handed myself, so I like them even more. And as many prep lefties as you just went over that are out there, it's a great year for college lefties as well. We've already talked about Jamie Arnold. We talked about Liam Doyle. We glossed over real quick Cade Anderson, the sophomore eligible Friday night guy for LSU, one of the best teams in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the top 3 lefties. And I think it might be this trend, kind of like 19-year-old freshmen or whatever. You know, there are 3 of the top 25 guys taken in last year's draft were left-handed pitchers. So I think hopefully we have this nice trend going. After him this year, Zach Root, he's really jumped up from probably a second, third rounder to now his name's being talked about into maybe the supplemental round after the first round. He's having an outstanding year for Arkansas. He's always been a 5-pitch, fill his own strike thrower when he was at East Carolina his first 2 years, but now his fastball's up a mile per hour. It may be just because it's been the first 5 weeks, but hopefully this is a long-term trend where maybe by the end of the year he's been up 2 miles per hour from his average last year. So that's not as high, and that's his average fastball this year compared to last year is already up 1 mile per hour. The list just keeps going on from there as well. Jared Spencer, I got to know Jared Spencer. He's a Michigan prep, went to Indiana State for 3 years, didn't have the best junior year. His velocity was down. He just wasn't the same guy. He's now at Texas just tearing it up. I saw him opening week, him up to 98. He pitched at 94, 96. He's always had a sweeper slider, whatever you want to call it. It's a great pitch. It's a swing miss pitch. Right below him is Joe Zuera. He's a lefty from Michigan State.
Good pronunciation.
I think I nailed it actually too. But
crushed.
It took me an entire game. I think in week 3 or week 4, I watched him and I listened to the announcer say it, 50 times. So kind of nailed that one. But he's been a great revelation this spring. Again, he went from more of a 4th, 5th round type guy. Guys who knew about him in the Cape. He tried to transfer from Michigan State to Vanderbilt over the summer, but it didn't work out. But now he's just tearing it up at Michigan State. I think he's striking out a batter and a half an inning. He's up to 95, 96. His best pitch is this changeup. Ton of deception. He's slightly cross-bodied. He's got some funk going on. So he's got some swing and miss stuff going on there. Just because he's good, number one. He's 6'8". It's downhill. Good-looking lefty. J.D. Thompson, who was probably a 2nd rounder for us in the preseason. His velocity's down a little bit this spring. He was the Friday night guy for Vandy, but now they started somebody else last night on a Thursday night. But
I think they were throwing it off, they were keeping him on track.
They're keeping him on track. Yep, they keep him on track. So he's a good-looking lefty. His velocity's down a little bit. He used to be more 91, 93, touch of 4. He's been more 89, 92 this spring, but I think he'll come out of that. But he's a power fastball guy, and he's kind of a throwback. He throws like 75 to 80% fastballs. So now he does have secondary pitches that are effective, but he's just, here it is, hit it. It's got good life to it. He's aggressive. He's competitive. He'll probably move up by the end of the year, but right now we have him the back end of the 2nd round, I think, is about where we're at right now. So, but again, the lefty list just keeps going on. There's so many. You mentioned Pico Cone, Mississippi State. He's having a phenomenal year. He's a 4th-year junior. his fastball slider combination, I think both are like 98th percentile pitches at this point. Now that'll come down a little bit. Now he's in the SEC and not the preseason soft cakes every weekend at home. But Pico Cone, he's been a huge improvement as well. So again, the list just goes on and on of lefties this year.
It's amazing. And I'm looking at the high school list where you start going down, and we put out a list of 30 prep left-handers. And one of the things that I take into consideration, like 5 of these guys are going to get 7 figures. Like that's just kind of where we're at with the level of play, what historically it's been the last 5-ish years with how it divvied up. But then from there, guys are going to go off to school, and we're going to be talking in 3 years about 3 first-rounders, right? Like somewhere we'll have 3 left-handers. So like who's going off to school? Who's going to be those guys? And that's something that, like, at least for me, I'm always thinking about, like, who has a chance to make a jump? Who are guys on here? I like Patrick Dudley's kid from Virginia. I like the Super 60. Cooper Underwood's going to Georgia Tech. Really like his pitch ability. Joey Lorenzini, I'll see in a couple of weeks in NorCal. Good mover. He's going to Arkansas, right? Oh, this kid from NorCal. Oh, Velo hasn't made the jump. All of a sudden he gets on campus, ground force, Matt Hobbs. This guy's 95 to 98 next spring. Oh, who is this guy? Well, yeah, we thought there was a chance that could be there. So just a really good list of left-handers. Which
on the college side, just sorted real quick, 10 of our top 52 college players are left-handed pitchers. So, okay. And we're not ranking them because they are left-handed. I understand it. That's just where they fall. So it's a really good group.
So get ready for that. All of you guys who are listening and are huge draft fans, left-handed arms. We got value here. We can do some stuff with this. The prep righties site, and we've talked about in the past, we put out a list of 50 guys. And honestly, the groupings in right-handed prep arms become massive, right? Yeah. Seth Hernandez is at the top. He separates himself. He makes things easy. He moves really well. Insane athlete. One of the best like hitting metrics of any of the guys we had at the All-American game. So like take that into account. Can really run, can jump, can do everything. Throws 100, has multiple pitches. Oh, this is amazing. We don't have to think too hard about this. Then from there, a group, Angel Cervantes, who had a really good year, up to 97, has really pitched 92, 94. The sliders there, really good kid. Love what he's about. 2-time All-American. Matthew Fisher in the state of Indiana. He's a QB1 throughout the fall. I think he's going to have a huge spring. A little bit older, though, for the class. CJ Gray's kid in North Carolina, who his high school team's not great, has some trouble with the catching, which guys are going to really have to get in there to evaluate because it's a tough look to see this kid, but he moves Seif exceptionally well. If you can think back to Chase Petty in the hallway heat, he's now with the Reds doing big things. New Jersey kid, kind of similar to that. But then there's a group of about, let's say 15 to 20. You're all kind of in the same group. You're similar for different reasons, could go in any direction. And then the next group is about 60 deep. It's just how right-handers go right now. And this doesn't mean there will not be separation. Like some of these guys can go off to college and they will become Friday night guys. And all of a sudden next year we'll be saying this guy's going to be a first rounder in 28. That's what we're looking for. It's just really tough, I find, with the prep right-handers. And I'm sure I'm just saying what's been said for the last 80 years, right? With regards to scouting prep right-handers. But that's kind of where it's at. I do think there's more value in the lefties this year because of the depth and some guys that you can really go out there and get from that standpoint. But Seif, we're here to talk to you about some college guys, some more. So let me move on to a few more that we have as we're going down. Another set. We're talking way too much Tennessee right now. I'm looking at Nate Snead. Shoot, you might as well just give an area. This is your area, Knoxville. Here, you're just going to handle. You're like a personal reporter. The SID could be hired by one of these MLB teams to just kind of follow around. But Nate Snead, Anthony Ianson, LSU right-hander.
And I know this is not draft boardish, but you go there, right? So the Sunday game 3 of the series, they're starting 4 freshmen in the everyday lineup and then one true freshman on the mound. So it's not like all there are is a bunch of transfer portal guys that are juniors and seniors that are top draft picks. They've got guys of every age. It's just an amazing machine. So anyway, back to the draft board.
So, and actually, I'm going to grab it back from you for a second here because I want to talk about some of the prep position guys. And they're kind of Ty Peoples, Georgia product. The powers continue to show. Outfielder, he's at 42 on the board. Back to back with Jacob Parker, who had a really nice Super 60 showing, 6'4" runner, just tools galore, loud athleticism. They're nestled right around Trey Phelps from Georgia, Coy James in North Carolina, who I think when it comes down to it, people are going to like Coy James. There may be some quiet takeaways, but he's got some freaky athleticism, freaky power. There's some stuff metrically that needs to be paid for because that kid's a gamer. Really excited about him. Gavin Feen from Southern California, Great Oak High School, had a really good summers, continuing to play throughout the fall, spring. These guys are all in that, like, hey, sneaky end of the first round consideration into, hey, supplemental early second round. That's where they're at. But what comes into play, even Omar Cerna, a catcher from Texas, the biggest raw power in the class. JoJo Parker, shortstop, brother Jacob Parker, really nice swing. Really excited about him. Brock Sell, absolute gamer, can go get it in Northern California. Brock Kettleson, 17-11 at draft. Sweet stroke. He's 90 and 93 on the bump from the left side. Seif, you would love this swing. He's committed to Stanford, though. Does he go off to there? And then we're talking about a guy who we're predicting as a first rounder, right? He gets on campus. This guy's going to be a first rounder in 28. Quentin Young, Sean Gamble are two guys that are really curious to see. Quentin Young reclassed up, was 2 years ago at the underclass area code. Like, that was the best prospect in any event. He was incredible, kind of cooled off throughout the summer. The hands have gotten looser, showed us some really good stuff, but he can really defend even though he's 6'4". You wouldn't expect how good he is. I would send him out at shortstop to start because the hands are that good. And then Sean Gamble, left-handed stroke. The production's not quite been there yet this spring. There's still some pitch recognition, swing decisions. When he does hit it, it is hard. I love the mechanics of the swing, Seif. Like, just scouting the tools, like, this works. He stands in the box well. I think he's got a chance to really hit. I don't know if the production is going to mitigate enough risk from some guys' opinions where, hey, we'd love to get him in the second round versus pushing him into the first round. We'll see where that is. He's definitely got a chance to be in those. But all those guys are in a group, right? They're all in this group, super athletic. Love these position guys. Are they going to sign for this number? No, they're not. They move into the college group that then gets pushed up the board to on campus, to then they're in the top 10 on campus, which is then what are we saying in 3 years?
First rounders.
First round, right? Like, hey, these are top 10 on campus. They're going to campus to be first rounders in 3 years. So that's something I just want to like toss in. Hey, this guy's ranked 57th. He could be a first rounder. Yes, because there's other factors that are going into this combined big board. And which is, again, to really stress the separation of those positioning, right? Like, go to the position board, right? Sean Gamble's like a top 4 essentially athlete, right? He can play center field, second base, can kind of move around. He just doesn't fit into the shortstop mold. He doesn't fit into the catcher mold, but he's at the top of these guys. Coy James is similar. Shortstop can go to center field. Seif, I'm sorry if I'm boring you with all these high school guys, but it's kind of all around the country. Justice DeYoung, right-handed pitcher, Reed Worley, Jordan Martin. Those are all kind of right-handers where, hey, we've evaluated the tools. There's a ton of upside. May or may not be this year, right? Hey, some things have to come together. There's still some jumps that have to be made. They have great stuff. If a department gets in there, really loves it and meets their number, yes, they're going to go high. If not, hey, Jordan Martin's going to go to Arkansas. Again, he's going to get with Matt Hobbs, and all of a sudden we're going to be looking at a guy 98-101 with a wipeout slider in 3 years. Mm-hmm. And then we're looking at a top 5 pick. So, like, those are really fascinating. Slater DeBrun, a guy out by me, an outfielder, can really go get it. You look at last year's draft with what the Phillies did, especially with a smaller left-handed hitting outfielder. Hey, he kind of fits that mold. And has more power. I can't remember that kid, the Arkansas kid's name right now. I'm sorry, I forgot it. He's got more power than that kid right now, so that's interesting. But let's shift over to some of these high school guys, or college guys, excuse me. Caden Bodine, catcher from Coastal Carolina. Henry Ford, outfielder at Virginia. RJ Austin, outfielder at Vanderbilt. Where are you kind of seeing these guys? Brooks Bryan, catcher at Troy. Are these like top half of the second round type guys?
Yeah, those are all names that are being thrown out there. Early 2, mid 2, most definitely.
It's what's interesting about all of them is, hey, we want this guy or devalue this guy. You start nitpicking. If you don't like him, you find the things he's not good at, right? And if you do like him, you emphasize the things that he is good at, right? So it's fascinating when I like talk with people or data analytics folks. His in zone, like I saw a stat on Bodine that he hasn't swung and missed at a pitch in the zone yet this year, like none. But I have not fact checked that, right? Saif, we always have to fact check.
I fact checked the other day, so I'm not sure whose facts were more factual, but it always, rumors you hear, things like crazy stats you hear are always worth getting a second opinion on for sure.
Exactly. That's why we have to fact check the fact checkers here. But those guys are all set ahead of Andrew Fisher, Trent Carraway, Nolan Schubart, even Henry Godbout. That's a pretty cool group right there. But somebody's got to make a decision.
Right. It's a very, I mean, I think right now the industry, it's just a 3-star year. It's a very average college draft. I think it's better than that because look at the guys we're talking about in the, the end of 2, early 3rd round here, like Nolan Schubart. Now that's where I have him. Maybe the industry on him in particular is a little higher than we have him. They're just in love with his power. But I mean, that just speaks to the depth of this draft. Brooks Bryan, he's a catcher at Troy's, plus arm, above average defender, got his plus raw power. I'm not sure how much he's going to hit for average, but he's a high makeup, high character kid too. But that's going to be a really good pick. If you get him in the 3rd round, that is an outstanding 3rd round pick.
The entire draft.
And, we haven't talked about some of the big risers like Brent Iredale, the Australian kid that was at New Mexico Junior College the last 2 years, putting up ridiculous numbers. What's that?
Is that where he was the last 2 years?
Yeah, and just put him at ridiculous numbers like 20-some home runs, 20-some stolen bases, hitting over 400 both years in a row. Now he's at Arkansas, but he's doing it at Arkansas too. He's not hitting 400, but he's hitting like 398, right? And he has I think 6-7 home runs, so he doesn't have his 20 in the light air of New Mexico, but he's doing it at Arkansas in the SEC. So just guys like him, and then some other rises like Corbin Dickerson. He's now at Indiana. He was at Louisville, kind of played just a little bit, limited role at Louisville last year. He's in Indiana now, just going off. His tools, he's a bag of fives, about a 55. Maybe you could have given him a 60 arm on the right day, but everything else is a 50 or 55. But that's a pretty solid guy. That's a 2nd, 3rd round type of guy. Have an outstanding year statistically as well.
Let me ask you a little more about Corbin Dickerson and more to the fact of the combination of looks from high school to college. He was a guy we loved in high school. Kentucky product, really swung well. I think we had him fairly high on the board. Like, this is going to be a dude. He's going to go to Louisville and do his thing. Didn't work out. Different place. Gets to Indiana. Do you combine those notes? Like, hey, these were good tools. We evaluated it well. We evaluated the tools in high school. Now it's starting to show. This just may be the surface being scratched. We may have a ton of value on this guy if other people are dismissing him after the Louisville stuff.
Yeah, I think each guy grows differently, right? Everyone matures emotionally differently, mentally differently, physically, right? Gavin Killen, we all predicted he was going to go to Tennessee and become bigger, faster, stronger just because of their program. That was a pretty easy one, but he's actually doing it and he's performing. And Corbin Dickerson just changed the scenery. Maybe just his age, he just hit that point, whatever it might be. His tools are playing. He's having an outstanding year for Indiana. And again, he's a average tools, maybe a slightly above average tools across the board, but he's going to be a 3rd rounder, maybe even 2nd rounder at the end of the day too. So, and then Alex Lodice at Florida State, we had him 5th, 6th round going into the year. And now he's always had a strong arm. He's always had raw power. He's answered some questions about staying at shortstop. It's leaning yes. It's not there yet, but at least it's further along yes than it was at this time last year. So he's a real interesting again shortstop at Florida State. I think he has almost 10 home runs already. He's part of an unbelievable talented lineup for Florida State. But those 3 in particular, and then Daniel Dickinson, he going into the summer, he was supposed to be a guy, had a bad workout, bad few weeks with the USA CNT. He wasn't any better in the Cape. He just looked gassed. But now he's at LSU and just going off. And just to watch him play second base, and is it Milan? Is that how you say his last name? Milan?
Just a monster. He's on a single name basis at this point.
Okay. Those two, watching them two play middle infield together, whether it's turning the double play or turning the 4 to 6, the back end, the 4 to 6 across the diamond just for the put out at first base on the flip throw. I mean, they're doing everything in Baton Rouge for the Tigers. So he's just fun to watch in the batter's box defensively. He's a good base runner, has some speed. He's kind of a bag of fives across, but he plays in the infield, not the outfield, so his value is worth more than Dickerson. But there's a fun group of guys that are just rising because they're playing into their tools right now.
I love like the Dumansil and Dickerson.
Another one.
Like, those two I love talking about because like in high school, you'd watch video and be like, this is what you don't really have to watch this. But like they work their tails off and to get to the point where they're at. And Danny Dixon, when he steps in the box, I watch at LSU, like that dude expects success and he owns the joint. And it's fun to watch him. Having seen him back in 2021 at the Pacific Northwest preseason All-State indoors, Centralia, standing next to Lyle Overbay, watching this kid. It's like, yeah, he's fine. He goes off and does his thing, continues to get better, which are some of the things that I love to see, right? We put out these lists. Oh, hey, we really like this guy. He's ranked 430th. And then to see him go off to school, hey, he's getting his opportunity there. And I'm thinking even Tate Davis right now at Louisville. Hey, Pennsylvania, it's Malvern Prep kid, love him, crazy power. He needs some more reps and opportunity. He's starting every day for Louisville. He's getting those reps. It's really important for him to get on the field. And a lot of these guys we've talked about today is like getting those at-bats is vital. You need to be in the order, especially as a hitter, and to get the experience more than anything, you need to have that pitch recognition, swing decision ability. There is a ton of value throughout those, right, Seif? And way more than me. You dive into the nitty gritty and it's like, hey, Seif dominates rounds 4 through 10. Like he's going to find some guys. Whereas I'm like, hey, look, right. Me, big bonus baby. That's all I'm worried about. Like you were a second rounder. Like, no, you're a low draft pick at that point.
I still have a lot of area scouting me. I mean, everyone knows the top 2 round guys because they're the ones that are talked about the most. They're the ones in the media the most and things like that. But the area scouting me, I just love rounds 3 through 10. That's kind of where you make your hay. I really, if you can get, you're not going to get every guy right in every order all the time, or even any of the time, right? Our draft board is as good as it gets, but it's still 200 guys, and we're going to be off here and there. That's just how it goes. But yeah, I just love rounds. I love day 2. Day 2 is when I really like, okay, saw that guy. Yep. Like him. Yeah. How about this guy? Things like that. So, and it's also day of the most flexibility and the creativity too, right? Like you're trying to save money. So now you got to kind of pick off in rounds 7, 8, 9, and 10, but you need to have that list already prepared of who you're going to go to, what college seniors you like in case you get to that point. So day 2 has always been the most fun day for me.
Yeah, and for those of you listening right now, this comes from in 21, what I would tell Seif every time we hop on a podcast, we should discuss Rocker versus Jack Leiter. Like that's how we should start every week. Leiter or Rocker this week. Leiter or Rocker. And Seif's like, no, we're going to move on to some other stuff. But I'm looking at like even we talked about the lefties like Nelson Keljo, Ryan Brager. All these arms kind of come into play. Connor Ware, Zane Adams, who just threw last night. You start really getting that nitty gritty. Where would we take this guy? What do we like about what he does? And tying us back to the beginning of the show, as come over an hour here of awesome talk on the Draft Board 2.0. We will be updating it in the future. Be sure to go to prepbaseball.com. Check out the Draft HQ site. Site's had tons of great content, rising middles, left-handed arms, all stuff from all over. I've been to Texas, Florida, Four Corners. I'll be heading to Southern California for some awesome action. Be sure to check that out. Also, check out shop.prepbaseball.com. I have a nice, fresh St. Patty's Day shirt over here that I'll be rocking in the future site. It's some good green stuff.
Can't wait to see it.
It's, you know what? I'm going to pull it out, actually. I'll give it a show. Look at that site.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Big
I'm
time.
Dial up Anna.
It's big time.
Well
I might need a hat. I like the color. Green's my favorite color. So I like to throw that on a lot. We will be
Green
updating.
Wave. No, I get it.
Oh, yeah, you know what? I am. My high school was green too. You know what? There it is. That you've just. I sat down on the couch. I laid down. You kind of got me there. We will be updating again in May, kind of getting some good looks at the cold weather guys as we head into the postseason, eyeing our trip to July. But it's been a fascinating start to the year, right? We always go in, and I think when we initially went in, hey, who are the arms that are going to rise? I'm always looking like what college arms are going to step up, and we've kind of seen some of those guys. I mean, shoot, Seif, you should just go sit in Knoxville and kind of see which guy's going to step up next. But there's just so many little intricate pieces. I'm looking at Grant J at 170. That's going to be a really good pick for somebody. Ryan Weidman, who's kind of been a buzzy name.
Have you seen what he's doing? I know he's doing it at a mid-major level, and I love Western Kentucky. Friends with all the coaches. They're awesome guys, but their schedule isn't like the best schedule. So he's not doing against the best pitching, but like just – and he's a beast of a player. I mean, he's just tooled up. He's 6'5". He plays center. He's like level A in a sense that he's a 6'5" guy that can play center field. That is just absolutely tooled up. So yeah, I mean Weidman, but oh yeah, I saw him this fall. He's just continuing to do what he did this fall, just getting to all of his tools. He's a fun one.
You know what? I love Western Kentucky. Even the guys they've recruited in the high school side, they do a really good job. It's really
Camden Ross is going off. He's going off this year. I'm not sure if he's going to be a catcher long term. May have to be a first baseman, but man, he's just been phenomenal as well.
You know what? So Ian Smith, our scout, does a wonderful job. He's actually an assistant who really covers my nine. Does a great job with this in the Southeast and with the MLB Draft, dominating Georgia, all over Florida. He was actually going up to see Ryan Weidman. He was the one who noted, like, hey, have you seen what this guy's been doing? Let me give you this, Seif. You know who Ryan Weidman was high school teammates with?
I do not.
Bear Jones at LSU. Can you imagine those two? And like they're at Walton High School. You know who else was at Walton High School? Levi Clark.
I was going to say Levi Clark.
Imagine those two. Oh my gosh.
But Levi was a sophomore when they were seniors though, but still that's still pretty good.
Shoot. And Walton High School is historical. Like it's a big time program down in the state of Georgia, but those are big time dudes. Seif, anything else you want to add from the college side of things before we wrap up here? This has been a great show. I love talking the draft. Like in the future, we are going to dive into we got to get in those signing bonuses and the slots and the draft polls.
Well, I'm glad you asked because, I'm going to go back on the left-handed topic here. We've mentioned about every lefty on the list except for two. One might be my favorite because he reminds me so much of Logan Allen, the college FIU, the college lefty from FIU, not the Logan Allen draft out of high school. Okay. They both played for the Indians. But Ben Jacobs, left-handed pitcher from Arizona State, he's their Friday night guy. Saw him for the first time this summer at the USA CNT. He reminds me so much of Logan Allen. Now, Logan Allen went in the second round. I think we had him in the first round as far as where we had his talent. He ended up going in the second. Jacobs here, we have him in the third, fourth. I would pick Jacobs earlier in this, but I really like what he has. He's a low 90s guy. I'll touch a 5, a 6, but he's got a couple different breaking balls, nice changeup. And then right behind him, Justin Lampkin. He's a lefty. He's a 6'5" lefty, 6'4" lefty at Texas A&M. Special fastball. He has over 7 feet extension on his pitch, so the fastball really plays up. Also has a couple effective secondaries as well. But two of the better lefties that we didn't mention, and just had to get my lefty pub in there before we call this thing a wrap.
For sure, and it actually helps out. Like both those guys were guys we liked in high school. It was, hey, we think these guys have a chance to make a jump, especially Lampkin. I can remember seeing like this is a Texan lefty. He's got the stuff, got the metrics. If he goes onto this path and makes the jump, we're talking about a big name here. So it's good to see that he's continuing to make that jump. We will be not stopping, right? It's just picking up. The Northeast is starting to get going. The Midwest is underway. We talked about Jack Bauer up to 100. I'm going to have to reroute everything. I got to go up to Chicagoland now, not just down in Springfield. I got to go all over the Midwest now.
Make sure you invite me when you go that day. Make sure you invite me. I'll try to get up there if I'm not out of town.
Okay, Seif.
I'm going to see Cam Appenzeller here on, I think, April 21st is my target date.
So. Okay.
They play my daughter's high school, so I kind of got to go for that one.
Well, there you go. I may have to ask you about that one because that may save me a trip. I can go see a different lefty because there's too many at this point.
I think they play on April 21st and May 5th. They play each other both those dates, so I'm gonna go to one of those two.
Well, that's
if he's pitching. So it's conference game, so he probably pitch.
Well, you can count on all sorts of action, coast to coast, boots on the ground, Prep Baseball to give you the most credible, up-to-date resources. We are an open book. We're showing what we got here. We will continue to monitor against the industry, but more so and see what happens with these teams in the draft. Be sure to check out the Draft Board 2.0. It's got the top 200 combined. It has high school prep position breakdowns. It has the high school top 150. It has the college top 200 and hitter or position players and pitcher breakdowns. It's a full resource. It is a real look into what the war room would expose. All of you who play fantasy baseball know you have your spreadsheets going. It's not just a 1 through 500. You got to have your different positions out there. So until next time, we can't wait to do more draft board stuff. Seif, we will be on the road, but we will see each and every one of you at the ballpark.